Assalamu alaikum, and welcome back to another podcast of Jenna Loves Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So glad you could be with me today. I'm trying to keep my energy levels up because it's the end of the year and I don't want to run out of steam before we get there. Anyways, today I thought I'd change totally what I've been talking about and stick outside of relationships and just talk about how the education system in America today is failing us really bad. Now, we've known for a while, there were studies done back in the early 2000s that were putting up the warning signs that people were graduating and not necessarily even able to read and write. They had a 19% illiteracy rate coming out of high schools. And a lot of this is attributed to the fact that back in the 90s, they started kind of just passing people without ever having them stay back here. And they changed the way funding was done to schools so that schools who had a high dropout failure rate would be given less money, when in fact they really should be given more money because they need more resources to entice the kids to be there longer. They need more teachers. They need a lot more things going on. Motivated students are the ones that are going to learn. Unmotivated students will not learn. And when you have people that are just being pushed through the school systems without any kind of motivation to actually put any effort or work into it, nobody wins. Everybody loses. I mean, the teachers are just there to collect a paycheck. The students are just there to stay out of trouble with truancy officers. And there's disrespect all around. It makes a really bad environment for people who actually do want to learn because there's so much distraction and everything else going on, and it's a really bad situation. Now, a lot of people are going to try private schools as an alternative to this. And although, if you can pay for it, putting your kid in a private school should be a very good option. It has come to light since COVID and everything being shut down and parents actually getting to see some of the curriculum that's being taught to their students, or to their children, that actually we might want to be rethinking that one too. Because the state curriculum in many, many states, in most cases, is teaching a lot of things to students which are not your basics. They're not your reading, writing, and arithmetic. And a lot of parents would disagree that these things should be taught at all, some of the subjects that are being covered. And on top of that, there's an environment which is insidious to the children and their relationship with their parents. There was recently some news come out about a woman who had gone to a parent association meeting. I do believe that was the source of it. Anyways, she was freaking out because her daughter had issues with the school, and the school was saying that her daughter should not be sharing these with the mother. She was completely kept into the dark until her daughter had gone through a whole bunch of changes, and then she was brought in front of the school with the daughter and told that, the mother had to change her pronouns and how she addressed her daughter and what name she was using and everything. And she's like, where's this coming from? And it had been over a year in development that she had knew nothing about. But the worst part of it is she wasn't really worried or concerned about that, except for the fact that she felt bad that her daughter didn't feel safe to come to her to talk to her about it in the first place. The worst part about that was that her daughter was also having suicidal thoughts, and nobody thought to tell her about that. And I mean, that's terrible that the school would keep that away from her, because if you have somebody who's suicidal, everybody should know. There should be a watch on everything. And anyways, what I'm getting at with this is children, particularly adolescents, particularly female adolescents, when they go through puberty with the flood of hormones and their social demands, they're wanting to fit in and everything, they're looking constantly for acceptance by their peers and everything else. And this creates an environment where whatever club is the in club, the pushed club, the location, the place that is told to them that is going to be their safe space, their place to be popular, whatnot, they're going to adapt themselves to go to that and be in that and be a part of that. Kids are spending more time with their teachers than they are with their parents these days. And that is where the parent is really losing out, because they're not the person that gets gone to. It's the school system. It's this, I've got to fit in, I've got to do this, and the communication is lost between the parent. And on top of that, the schools are actually literally telling the kids, if you have issues and you think that your parent won't be receptive of it, don't tell them, and we'll show you how to keep these things hidden from your parents. And this is a terrible, terrible, terrible thing. But parents don't even realize this is going on. And I think this was the biggest thing with this one woman, why she was so upset. She ended up removing her child from the situation and putting her in another school. And she got her little girl back once she had had a chance to just, be away from all these influences that were pressuring her to be like everybody else, to fit in. She got into a place that the fitting in was something different. And I suppose if you have a private school, especially one that's religiously based, your daughters, like for Islam, your daughters are going to be able to wear their hijab or niqab or whatever they want to class and feel like they totally fit in, because everybody's like that. And that's a wonderful aspect. But we have to ask ourselves, how many of these schools are truly private, and how many of them are actually still following the national or state curriculums? I don't know the numbers on that. All I know is that I was recently given a tour of a local school, and they were quite proud to tell me that they followed the state curriculum. And I was like, oh, really? So I would want to look into that more as a parent, which I am not yet, and all of you that follow my show. I'm desperately trying to have a baby, and still working on that plan to gather enough funds for in vitro fertilization option. So if you can help me out with that, links below for Patreon. Become a follower of me here on YouTube. Everything like that, word of mouth, let other people come and see the show. And I also have an eBay thing where I do sales of different, mostly vintage products. I don't know what I'm going to have up there from week to week, really. So it's good to check out, no matter what time of year it is, and see if you can get yourself something or a gift for somebody else. I try to keep my prices reasonable so that people are getting a good deal, because I like to get a good deal, and I think that's part of making life a little bit simpler, is if we budget for things and don't go out of our way to get ourselves into debt or anything to that effect. And so, yeah, that's that in a nutshell. Just wanted to bring to the attention that we have a real problem with the education system, and that it's more than just that kids aren't necessarily getting taught what we think they're getting taught. They're getting taught a lot of things that maybe they shouldn't be being taught. And we need to, as parents, either think about removing our kids from the schools and homeschooling, or banding together a bunch of parents to set up some sort of sharing facilities where people will have, more knowledge in one area or another, can help with the homeschooling efforts in those subject matters. It wouldn't be a formalized school, because once you start doing that, then you get into all the bureaucratic stuff. But just to have an exchange where people can overlook things and help with establishing what kind of curriculum would be necessary to get the basics. Teach your children critical thinking, and if you don't know how to do it, then maybe research that. I think a really good idea is to, gift one another lessons and things. The longer we keep learning new things and doing for ourselves, the more we have to offer those around us, the more we have to offer our partners, our families, everybody works together, can make a much stronger society. We are so reliant on the government these days to look after our children because we have to go out and we have to get this and we have to get that. And it's like our kids are learning that we have to fit in. They're learning it's not about a religious fitting in, it's a fitting in with society. Well, how much of society do we really want to fit in with, and how much do we want to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I mean, we have to really just think about what our priorities are, and we can cut back on all our expenses and things like that within the household, and actually, take a more active role in our kids' lives by either working from the home part-time as opposed to full-time and cutting down a lot of extra expenses. We don't need to have the newest car. We don't need to have the abandonment of the memberships to the different websites and streaming portals, and there's so many things that tap our resources on a regular basis that we can cut back on. Going out and getting coffee at the store every day when you can make it at home. Going out and ordering out once, twice a week, takeout food as opposed to cooking it yourself. Cooking only stuff that's pre-made, you just stick it in the microwave. Costs a lot more than if you were to just make it from scratch. Trying to eat steak every day costs a lot more than, substituting in chicken or tuna or whatever. These are all things that we can do to just adapt our lifestyle, save a little bit of money, and be able to do the things that are really important, like have more time with our families and take a more active role. One of the big things about the teaching and stuff that they're doing with kids today is they're teaching levels of sexuality at a very early age to children that are even prepubescent, that they don't understand what's going on. And kids aren't prepared for this because it's not being taught at home. It's just not something that your parents really think to discuss with their children that young. And so if they're going off to these schools and they're getting this education, then they just start to follow that as part of what is right and what is life, because nobody said anything else to them. So, we have to really become active. If we cannot be the ones who are teaching our own kids, then we have to become really active in knowing what it is that they're being taught so that we can circumnavigate anything that runs contradictory to our own values when our children are raised. So they get raised by us, not by the state. Unless, of course, you don't want them to follow you or follow your way of life when they're grown up, because that's where it's headed. I mean, we see all the time where you have these people, they're photographed coming out of high school and they're happy-go-lucky and full of life, and they get off to college. When they come back from college, they've changed their look. They've, sometimes pierced half their body, shaved half their hair off. They put freaky colors in their hair, and they are looking angry, and they even seem angry when they come home. And it is this horrible transformation of character which might not have ever occurred if they had been taught from the very beginning that what they should be learning in school and taking from school, and to look at certain of the lessons that they get in school as running contradictory to what their actual values are. So, that's how they stay happy. If you're happy and you love your child to be happy and you want them to grow up into a happy, functional adult, then you're going to want them to carry through their education system those values that you have. But that requires taking the time to know what it is that they're being taught and indoctrinated into, and and be able to make clear decisions for themselves whether or not they want to support their family's values and why their family has those values. Not just that it's some arcane thing that, we've always practiced it. We can't have hypocrisy. We've got to actually live, breathe, be, and, have that open communication. Because even if you totally fervently believe in something, if you lack that open communication and somebody else is offering a very open and very calm communication with people on subjects that are difficult to talk about, you're going to lose. So, anyways, that's just my thoughts for today. Hopefully they weren't too much of a downer. I know about these things because I counsel, so I deal with a lot of crazy problems that people have in their lives, and I'm just kind of a sounding board some days, so I thought I'd just share some of my thoughts and observations with those of you out there who might not ever get to see that side of things. And if you have children of your own, no matter what age they are, if you're thinking about sending them off to school, really look into where you're sending them and check out your own options about what you can do for homeschooling. That's all for now. Until next time. Ciao, ciao.